The Christmas storm came without mercy. Thick snow fell from the dark sky, covering the empty highway in rural Montana, USA. Sarah's car crawled forward before finally giving up, skidding to a stop as the engine sputtered and died. She tried the ignition again and again, but nothing happened. The cold pressed in immediately, seeping through the windows and into her bones. Her phone showed no signal, just a blinking battery warning. She was alone, miles away from the nearest town, with night falling fast. Sarah wrapped her coat tighter around herself and stepped outside. The wind howled like a warning, stinging her face with ice. Panic rose in her chest, but she forced herself to breathe. In the distance, through the swirling snow, she noticed a faint yellow light. It looked unreal, like a dream fighting through the storm. With no other choice, she locked her car and began walking toward it, her boots sinking into the snow with every step. After what felt like forever, the shape of a ranch house emerged, old wooden walls, a wide porch, and smoke rising from the chimney. Relief washed over her. She climbed the porch steps, her hands trembling as she knocked on the door. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the door creaked open. A tall man stood there, rugged and quiet, with tired eyes and a thick flannel shirt. His dark hair was slightly unkempt, and a hint of surprise crossed his face as he saw her standing there, shivering and snow-covered. "Ma'am," he asked carefully. "My car broke down," Sarah said, her voice shaking. "Please, I didn't know where else to go." The man hesitated for only a second before stepping aside. "You'd better come in. It's not safe out there." Warm air wrapped around Sarah as she entered. The house smelled of wood smoke and coffee. A fireplace crackled in the corner, casting a soft glow across the room. The man closed the door firmly behind her, locking out the storm. "I'm Jack," he said. "You're safe here." Sarah nodded, struggling to hold back tears of relief. Jack handed her a thick blanket and guided her toward the fire. She noticed how quiet the house was, no decorations, no Christmas tree, no signs of celebration. Just a simple, lonely space that felt frozen in time. Jack poured her a cup of hot coffee and placed it in her hands. "Drink. It'll help." As Sarah warmed herself by the fire, she studied the man who had opened his door without question. Jack moved with the calm of someone used to being alone, yet there was a kindness in his actions that spoke louder than words. Outside, the storm raged on, but inside that ranch house, two strangers had just crossed paths, unaware that this Christmas night would change both of their lives forever. The storm showed no sign of easing. Snow beat against the windows, and the wind whistled through the trees like a restless spirit. Inside the ranch house, the fire burned steadily, filling the room with a comforting warmth. Sarah sat on the couch, wrapped in the thick blanket Jack had given her, slowly feeling life return to her frozen fingers. For the first time since her car had broken down, her breathing relaxed. Jack moved quietly around the kitchen, placing a simple dinner on the table: soup, bread, and a small plate of leftover pie. "It's not much," he said, almost apologetically. "It's perfect," Sarah replied, meaning more than just the food. They ate in silence at first, the kind that wasn't uncomfortable, just unfamiliar. Sarah glanced around the house. The walls were bare except for a few framed photographs, horses, wide open fields, and one faded picture of Jack with an older man she assumed was his father. "You live out here alone?" she asked gently. Jack nodded. "Have for a while now." He didn't offer more, and she didn't push. As the night deepened, the storm trapped them together, and conversation slowly found its way in. Sarah talked about her life in the city, how she had been driving to visit family for Christmas when everything went wrong. She laughed softly at the irony of it, how she had been rushing through life, only to be forced to stop. Jack listened closely, his eyes never leaving her face. When she asked about him, he hesitated before speaking. He told her about the ranch, about taking care of it after his parents passed away, and how the quiet had slowly become his companion. Christmas, he admitted, had stopped meaning much to him. The fire crackled between them, casting shadows on the walls. Sarah felt something she hadn't expected: comfort. Not just from the warmth, but from the man across from her who spoke so little yet seemed to understand more than he said. Later, Jack offered her the guest room. "It's clean," he said. "Hasn't been used in a while." Sarah paused. "Thank you, for everything. You didn't have to help me." Jack met her eyes. "Sometimes people show up for a reason." As Sarah lay in bed that night, listening to the storm outside, she realized she wasn't afraid anymore. In a place she had never been, with a man she had just met, she felt strangely safe. Across the hall, Jack sat alone by the fire, staring into the flames, feeling something unfamiliar stir in his chest. That Christmas night, the storm didn't just trap them under one roof, it quietly began melting the walls around two lonely hearts. Morning arrived softly, as if the storm itself was finally tired. Pale sunlight filtered through the snow-covered windows, turning the world outside into a quiet white landscape. The wind had calmed, and the silence felt peaceful rather than frightening. Sarah woke slowly, wrapped in warm blankets, almost forgetting where she was. Then the memory of the ranch, the storm, and Jack came rushing back. She stepped into the hallway and followed the faint smell of coffee. Jack stood in the kitchen, already dressed in his heavy coat, staring out the window. When he noticed her, he smiled, small, hesitant, but real. "The roads should be clearing soon," he said. "I checked on your car. It'll start now." Sarah felt a strange tightness in her chest. She had known this moment was coming, yet she wasn't ready for it. They sat together at the table, sharing breakfast in comfortable silence. The ranch no longer felt lonely, it felt lived in. Outside, Jack brushed snow off her car and loaded her bag into the trunk. Sarah watched him, noticing the care in every movement. When everything was ready, they stood near the porch, unsure how to say goodbye. "I don't know how to thank you," Sarah said quietly. "You saved me." Jack shook his head. "You didn't need saving. You just needed a door to knock on." They shared a long look, words forming and fading between them. Finally, Sarah reached into her pocket and wrote her number on a scrap of paper. She handed it to him with a smile. "In case you ever want company on Christmas again." Jack held the paper like it was something fragile. "I think I'd like that." As Sarah drove away, she glanced in the mirror one last time. Jack stood there, snow crunching beneath his boots, watching until her car disappeared down the road. For the first time in years, he didn't feel the usual emptiness settle in after someone left. Weeks passed. Winter slowly loosened its grip. One evening, Jack found himself dialing a number he had memorized. When Sarah answered, her voice was warm and familiar. They talked for hours, about small things, about big dreams, about how that storm had changed everything. By spring, Sarah returned to the ranch, this time by choice. The house felt brighter, filled with laughter and shared meals. The loneliness that once lived there had quietly packed up and left. That Christmas storm had brought fear and uncertainty, but it also brought two hearts together. What began as shelter from the cold turned into something lasting, a reminder that sometimes, love arrives not when we're looking for it, but when we open the door.